The next step in this process is to upload that Excel spreadsheet that we've prepared. To do that, we're going to navigate to our cold calling app, the one we want to upload to. Please remember that there's a hard limit in Podio of 500,000 items per app. Quite honestly, we don't really like going above 400,000, even 300,000 sometimes, depending on how much we have to do. So that's why we've got multiple apps here. But I'm going to navigate here to this cold calling list number 1 app. And I want to upload that list. So I'm going to go to this little wrench here, and I'm going to go to Excel import in the data section for this app. It's a great feature of Podio, and it's a more advanced thing if you've never played around with it. The Excel imports and the data settings here are very, very important. So I'm going to choose Excel import, and now we have an option to upload or drop our file. I'm going to choose, and I'm going to go to Assign Force, and there is the template we've been working on. And so once we upload the file, we then have to map the columns, and this goes into mapping against the app fields. And now there's a couple things that can trip you up here. And one is how we map against a related item like a campaign. If you remember, we've got the cold calling list as one app, but then the campaign is a completely separate app, and we're reaching out to that app via a relationship field. So well, let's do that first. You can see here we've got cold calling list, and you can see it says campaign is an app that has been referenced from the app referenced linked field linked campaign. That's exactly right. So these are all fields not in the cold calling list, but in the campaigns app. And what we want to do is we want to find this. This is the one we're trying to get, the campaign item ID. And we're going to drop our campaign search ID here. And you notice here it says you're adding contact into another app linked to cold calling list 1, which is true. We are essentially mapping our campaign search ID from the Excel into the campaign item ID field of another app. Now I'm going to close that. And now we're back to our cold calling list. So call list, I'm going to drag over. I'm not assigning to a user, so that's fine. And now I can start adding in the campaign information. So we've got full name. We're going to drag over first name, last name. I've only got one email space in this app because we don't really do email in these cold calling lists for our client, but we can add more. We could add it as an email list if we wanted to. And then I'm going to start adding the phone numbers. And you can see here, I open this up and I can add as many as I want. I'll add the first one, and it is a mobile, so I'll keep it as mobile. I'll add the second one. I'll set it to work. The third one, I'll set it to home. Fourth one to main. And you know what? I'm not going to bother doing the fax numbers. So that's the phone numbers now mapped. Now we've got 2 address fields, property address and mailing address for this. And sure enough, we've got property address and mailing address. So I'm going to sync postal code to postal code, city to city. If it's a zip, you can map that to postal code. Don't forget state to state and country to country. And then mailing address, I'll do the same thing. Address, postcode, city, state, and country. Finally, we've got our last fields. We've got county, we've got owner occupied, we got credit score, and other info. And then we had a couple other fields that we're just going to bring in, which is the lead status, and that's right here. And then we also want to do the creation date. So we're going to open creation date up, and we're going to drop creation date into the start date, and we're going to make sure it's US format because we did it in US format. And that's all we need to do. That's all our fields map. If we want to preview that, it'll give us a preview of the first line row. Let's make sure we think it looks right. We're happy. Campaign, yep. Call list, great. Names, addresses, looks perfect. So I then click next, and this, you see here, the final step of an Excel import is how you keep your data clean. And this is the second part that trips people up. And I'm going to go through this with you right now. the next screen we're going to see is our ability to determine how to deal with duplicates and how to deal with related items. So you see here it says toggle the key onto dark background to prevent duplicate data. So what does this mean? You can see these keys here, and there are keys for a number of fields. If you click them so they're dark, so that you've selected them, the system is going to overwrite the existing data if it finds an identical match. We don't want that for full name, do we? Because there could be two Joey A's, there could be two Jordan Flemings, there could be two Tom Griffiths, whatever the name is. So having this selected as a duplicate potential is a bad idea for full name. But it is potentially very good for some, and it is critical for one, and that is the campaign, because we're linking to a related campaign. So the last thing we want to do is create a new campaign for every single uploaded list. If you upload 20,000 and you don't have this selected, it's going to create 20,000 campaigns, one for each upload. That's exactly what we don't want to do. So instead, we're going to go to the campaign item ID, which is the one we know we're referencing, and we're going to click this on. And that means that where it finds a match, which it will every time, because we've got this in the same one in every single row, it's going to instead link to the existing related item instead of creating a new one. So this is a critical one to remember to do. But you just have to be very careful in doing this. If you select the wrong one, you're going to find that you have less leads than you thought, and that the data will be wrong. Because, for instance, you've got two Joey A's, and it's going to overwrite the first Joey A with the second Joey A's information. So my advice is to make sure your lists are prepared like I've prepared them, and make sure that the only one we want to do is the campaign that we're linking to. And finally, we click import. And the system's going to go ahead and give us a note that your data is being imported. Now, because there are only 4, I would suggest it's going to finish very quickly, which it will. If there are a lot of them, 20, if you're doing 20,000, you've got an upload limit of 20,000 at a time. It can take half an hour to do 20,000. It's a slow process sometimes. Let's just refresh this app, and we'll now see that we've got a bunch of brand new Philly A1s that we've just uploaded. There's the Joey A. This calculation field will resolve soon. You can see it's linking to the pre-existing Philly probate list, which is exactly what we wanted. And all that detail we've got is here, including the addresses. Everything is ready. It's waiting, and the date created is up. So that is how to properly upload an Excel list of cold calling leads.